I'll wait and see. Put this over there. Let's see. I'll check the audio. Nothing yet. Okay, here I am. Is there audio? Yes, good, I'll mute it. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Well, it's been such a long time since I went live 4 days in a row, or evenings. Shalom, shalom. Sneezer, I think you... Oh, maybe someone else is here? If there's someone else here, say hi and ho and hi there. Sure. So, Sneezer, you were about to cook. Go and cook, go eat. You can catch this another time. Seriously. Okay. Now, I'm going to continue the chat from earlier, from yesterday, that is, or not yesterday because it was cut off. So the chat as well was cut off. There were things going on while the screen was glitching, the audio was glitching. I don't know what was going on, but YouTube cut it off just after the half-hour mark. So unfortunately, all the other chats that were there for a few minutes have disappeared. So unfortunately. Let's hope that my phone doesn't glitch out again. And he says it was the gremlins. Sneezer says it was the gremlins. I don't know. He says, I hear the roommate in the kitchen anyway, no doubt why I was getting hungry. Well, is it big enough a kitchen that you both can cook or do what you need to do at the same time? While you craft your answer, there's, I'll continue the chat from Monday. Sneezer said, any AI can re-explain it, the 42 names of God. 49, I think it's 49, 7 times 7. No, there is Shem Mem Bet. There is a 42-letter name of God. There are, well, many, many different, right? There's the 72-letter name. And there's the different names of God literally spelled out as in Aleph would be spelled Aleph Lamed Pei, which make up the letter Aleph. That sort of thing. Where you can go, it's called Milui, which is the innards, or the inside, where you would spell out the letters. So instead of it being 4 letters, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, the Yod is a few letters, the Hey is a couple, and so on and so forth. And since there are different ways to add up the numbers, with Hey being spelled a few different ways, and Vav as well, then the gematria, the numerical value, changes accordingly. And there's a hierarchy of the names. So the 42-letter name of God, wait, you didn't say 42 names, you said you didn't say 42 letters, you said 42 names. I'm talking about 42 letters, not 42 names, but maybe you meant something else. So Sneezer, you're here now. 42 names, 49, 7 times 7, what was it that you were referring to? I'm curious. KJB said, it often surprises me among Christians who believe we are saved by grace. A lot of them are quite harsh, judgmental. But among Jews, even rabbis who are into the law, following it, teaching it, will often be much more kind, patient, gracious, and with good insight and advice. Well, I can't speak to it because I haven't had dealings with many Christians online. I mean, I have, but I don't know if it's the same. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't in some ways, but I've found some of them to be harsh and judgmental, of course. I guess those two types, right, the harsh and judgmental and the gracious and with good insights, they exist in both, you know. It has to do, I suppose, more with upbringing and culture. But I might be wrong. It is right, I think, to surprise you. If you say that it often surprises you, maybe it's right to surprise you. Maybe it ought to surprise you. I believe that to the degree that there are harsh and judgmental Christians, there are those who believe, you know, saved by grace and hate the sin, not the sinner, and that whole thing. But I have no idea. Because if, according to Christianity, all of us are supposed to be Christians and follow Jesus, then of course there will be judgment reserved for those who do not follow that path. And for the Hebrew people, even more so, harshly they are judged. because of the nature of the Hebrew people. If we're supposed to be a light unto the nations, as they say, then we should be following Jesus, says Christianity. As for rabbis being kind, patient, gracious, and with good insight and advice, obviously, once again, you can find those, like I said, in the Christian faith as well. I'm sure. But, well, there's no but. They exist, here and there. Still Me is here. Hello, Still Me. I've missed most of the live streams lately. Hope you and your family are doing well. We are doing well, thank God. And thank you. I hope you're doing well, Still Me. Was there anything else in the chat right now that I missed? Okay, so he says, nope, neither of us will cook with the other in it. Oh, okay, so there's no room in the kitchen, or it's simply the way that you vibe. You have your time in the kitchen, I have mine. So said Sneezer, or says, I was talking about 49 names, comes from taking 2 chapters in the Torah, one forward, one backward, and reading them merged letter by letter, and AI explained it to me. I think you might be, 2 chapters, 49 names, forward and backward. Well, let's put it this way. When dealing with the divine revelation in names, going forward has to do with, let's say, the right hand and forward motion, and backward has to do with the left hand and with withholding. And it's known as straight light and backwards, if you will, light. Right? There's the top-bottom revelation or emanation, and there's the from bottom to top revelation or emanation. There is very famously the 3 verses which make up the 72 names of God, Shem Ein Bet. That is actually 72 names, it's 72 letters times 3, where you take 3 verses, you align the letters, each verse, right? They go consecutively. Each one has 72 letters in the verse, and so you put one on top of the other, flip the letters in the middle one. So you get like a forward, backward, forward motion. That makes up a very famous collection of names known as Shem Ein Bet. Some say it's Shem HaMeforash, the actual revealed name. The name that was only spoken, they say, by the high priest on Yom Kippurim, the holiday of atonement, or some say it was spoken when the priests used to do the priestly blessing in the temple. Nowadays, when the priests get up and they bless the congregation, in Israel they do it every day, pretty much. They use the name Adonai with Yod Heh Vav Heh, right? But that's not the way it went down in the temple, they say, with the revealed name, Shem HaMeforash. Yes, forward light, backward light. There is that idea of when you have something going forward, it goes from top to bottom, right? And when it goes from bottom to top, the way that it goes is each of the sfirot of the revelations, the emanations in the tree of life has within it its own 10, so to speak. Like a fractal, right? Going in and out of itself with 10 sfirot within 10 sfirot. The Ari, or Rabbi Chaim Vital famously, maybe it wasn't him first doing it, but that's where I first heard it, he likened it to the different peels of an onion sitting in top of the other. Oh, I'm sorry, it may have been the Zohar, right? This being the klipa of that, this being a shell or a husk for this one, this being this one's brain, the inside, one revealing the other. And this backward light is happening also because, right, it represents din, it represents that left hand, it represents that motion that is it's not antithesis, but a motion that has to do with, no, I'll leave it at that. It has to do with that left hand, that din. Also with divine names, the way that you spell them, the way that you have the letters in this order or that order. Certain letters themselves, right, are masculine and feminine, and so that affects the whole thing. With the light going from bottom to top, and that's what we do here, so to speak, It's able to get to the highest places because if you should be making that connection, there is a higher emanation of the crown of Keter within Malchut, within that 10th emanation. There is this imprint. No, it's not an imprint. The capacity, the potential of the top revelation, right? From crown to kingdom, each one having its own 10. And people here in this world of Malchut, of the 10th Sphira, we are able to do amazing things with the human body and make many spiritual connections and bring new divine revelation into creation and better the world, at least as much as we can make it terrible. But more so, make it better. Because we can tap into this place. Yes, we are in the final stop, as it were. We are in Malchut. We are in the final Sphira, where everything converges and comes in. And we have, like when you stretch a rubber band, you need to stretch it very, very far in order to get the motion going the fastest, the quickest. Like a bow. And indeed, Yesod is very much likened to the bow and Malchut. And an arrow, and Malchut being the target. The point is that with Malchut and the things we do here, the unity of the Sfirot, of the masculine and feminine divine presence, through Torah and commandments, we're able to sort of pull back that bow and loose the arrow in such a way, at the right time, at the right place, that it reaches the highest. There's also that idea in more Lurianic teachings of that light being going back and forth in a motion like that, again based on the Zohar, if I'm not mistaken, where in the beginning, when God wanted to create, creation, there was a light that was revealed, and vessels were broken because of the light's magnitude, let's say. And so God needed to bring divine light into creation in measure, which also caused it to go to sort of vibrate and come closer and further and closer and further and closer and further, each time inching a little bit closer and making things more manifest, more physical eventually in this world. So you're saying maybe 2 verses. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure which one it is. I mean, there are many, like I said, many names of God, many collections of names of God. Resonates true. Yes, 72. So many magic numbers. Yes, magic numbers indeed. I think in my youth my light was mostly backward. Could be. In youth, and people could take that however they want, I suppose, right? But in youth, where we are more egocentric, perhaps, more working out of less of perhaps sometimes a less expanded or seasoned mind, then it would be, let's say, mostly backward in the way of what it is that we are bringing into creation. But it's not backward necessarily that's negative. You understand? It's not necessarily negative. Well said, beautiful words. Well, like I say, those aren't my words, I'm saying them, but many times I'm regurgitating things and giving it my own twist when I have one to give. He's preaching now and doing well, said Sneezer. No, I'm no preacher. I'm here to learn with you people. It's hard to explain to those unready, but I'm vibing it. And it was sort of a backwards light first. So in what way did you feel that, if you don't mind sharing, Sneezer? When you say that in your youth it was more backward, or backwards, what do you, where does this meet you, right? These words that I'm saying. Yo, hey, Robert's in the house. So wait, I have chai tea this evening and a few sweet crackers, which are a knockoff of the original brand, but I hope that they will suffice. That's what I say, sort of, said Suneezer. It's more an absorbing projection than a pure projection. It has to do with absorbing. Yes. You absorb and then you bring something else out into creation, and that thing has already, let's say, been filtered through you. It has gone through you. In the case of you doing the backward motion. Like the breath, right? We take it in and we let it out. making connections. In the more Zohar, well, no, I guess it's not just Zohar, but there's this idea of the waters, of masculine waters and feminine waters. And the idea of smolot tachat leroshi v'yaminot techabkeni, the idea of from Song of Songs, his left hand is under my head, and his right one embraces me. This idea of having the feminine and din, the left hand, the other side, of having those feminine forces stir the masculine forces to act. I liken it very much to dropping the handkerchief. In days of old, when a lady wanted to be approached by a gentleman, but she couldn't very well approach him herself, she used to walk past the gentleman and drop something, a napkin, an artifact. The gentleman, seeing this, would run up there and, "Oh, miss, milady, you dropped this, you left this, is this yours?" And they would strike up a conversation. And that way she drops a subtle hint, as women do. And in doing this, she initiates without initiating, since he's the one who makes the move. It's active and passive, very feminine, I think. Right, so that idea of Maim Nukvin, of the feminine waters that we are, let's say, elevating with Torah and commandments, these are meant to be dropping the handkerchief, dropping the napkin, making a move that will stir the masculine revelation, the masculine divine revelation, to initiate in earnest. His left, it says in Song of Songs, his left is under my head and his right embraces me. And you would think that you were supposed to be, no, you start with kindness, you start with love, you start with the right hand, you start with an embrace. But no, you start with the left. You start with the left. You start with that idea of Maim Nukvim, of something subtle that can stir great things. And that backwards motion of hafuch, right, of reversed, if you will, that has great merit. That's what we're doing here. Robert says, I counted 23 books in the written Torah and Hebrew Bible referenced. 23 books in the Hebrew. Isn't it 24 books? Isn't it 24? Did you split Ezra and Nehemiah? That many people maybe forget to do that. Well, I'm pretty sure it's 24 according to tradition. Sneezer says, nobody ever understood me till God switched on my voice. What do you mean by switched on with the quotes? With the, well, now most people understand me and a few pretend not to. Well, you say that understanding is very hard to come by, Sneezer. You say that misunderstanding is the base for all woe and suffering and distance from God and from each other. So most people understand you, a few pretend not to. I'm curious where that meets you, because you're saying that understanding is really tough to achieve and that there's so much misunderstanding all the time about everything. It's that great adversary, and it breeds hate, and it breeds worry, and it breeds war, and it breeds all of these things. And yet you say that most people understand you, and if you pretend not to, though only online through text. Well, the question still stands. Mostly, he says. Hey, James Bong is here. Shalom, friends. Shalom to you. It is a huge blessing. It is a huge blessing. Okay, we'll see what he answers. In the meantime, let's continue Monday night's chat. Monday night's chat. KJB, Sneezer answered to him about Christians who say that they were saved by grace, but judge others and are harsh. He says they forgot to not judge lest ye be judged. Well, see, this is it. That's the thing. There are a few different places that say you should not judge a person until you reach his place, until you walk a mile in his shoes. On the other hand, you do have judges and rulers and magistrates who give the law, like Moses, and who sit and carry out the law. And it's like, if you're going to be judged, if you are going to judge, be ready to be judged, A. And B, in the Hebrew traditions, it's like, yes, judges are necessary. Sanhedrin is necessary. Courts are necessary to keep the peace. But there are certain things that a judge needs to do in order for him or her to stay away. I don't know if there was ever a female judge in the old Hebrew courts, right? A woman judge, but for all intents and purposes, him or her, they need to judge. They do need to judge, and so they need to be of a certain character. And when Moses sets out to find judges, after Yitro tells him, the kind of caliber of people that he should be going for, and Moses executes that, some say not perfectly based on the scripture, but I digress. And these people are right for the different groups in a hierarchy of judgment, where eventually it ends up at the feet of Moses if nobody else could tackle it. And they were judging people, and they were giving the right divine decrees through human beings. And I think there is room for judgment. It's just that you need to know how to do it, which goes back to rebuking. And I've mentioned rebuking, how at the time of the Second Temple in the Mishnah, it was Rabbi Akiva and a few others who say, I swear by the worship of the temple that I don't think there's a person living today in this generation who knows how to rebuke. Another said, I swear by the temple worship that I swear that there is nobody who can receive rebuke. And now we are many generations later, nigh on 2,000 years almost since the destruction of the temple. And that's still the case. So if you're going to judge, know how to judge. If you're being judged, think of making yourself into the type of person who can receive the judgment. I mean, you can peel away things that you don't want, but maybe accept the truth of what your judge is saying. In essence, you can argue over this and that. People who judge you may occasionally tell you something yet you didn't know that's useful. Okay, back to the chat here. Is there anyone else here? Hey, Ezra is here. Hello, Ezra. Good to see you again. Shalom, bro. One love, one peace, one God. Lu yehi. May it be so. May it be so. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, שהכל יהיה בדברו. Chai tea. Very good, very good. One love, one heart, James Wong says, let's get together and feel all right. Yeah, right on. Right on. Is there a place for the hopeless sinner? So Nezer says, a judge is among the highest positions. There should be few, and the problems brought before them as few. Well said. Yes, well said. And when the prophets, during the time of the first temple, were prophesying the destruction, it was like your judges are taking bribes, and your legislators are doing this, and it's like get it together. Your noblemen and your courts, the system is full of blood and guts. And no, it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be killing the innocent. You shouldn't be letting people get away with something because he pays you off. That is not the way of the Torah. That is not the way. So Nezer continues, even when we only had one law, we broke it, aka the fruit. Well, there's a lot to say about the fruit. There's a lot to say about Eden. A lot, and I've spent a great deal of time doing just that. Forgive me, I'll have a nibble. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minim zonot. Ate the fruit. Well, but you know what I think about that. Maybe we've spoken of it live, maybe you've come across the video. I think that the real law and the real problem, that law, yes, it was there. We broke it, yes. But I think the real issue was when Adam and Chava did not repent. When they didn't, right, when he said, Ayeka, where are you? He doesn't say, you know what, you got me, I'm sorry, I was tempted, I did it, I hope we can rebuild. He pinned it on the woman pinned it on the snake. They were hiding. Amen, God is one, says James Bond. Yep. They say God is above the numbers, just like the concept of math is above any specific number. Robert says, the book of Gad the Seer, Gad HaChozeh, The Acts of Solomon, the book of the wars of the Lord. Yes, books that we're missing. All right, you brought that up the other day. Yeah, I'd love to attend a party with y'all. The book of Yehu, the book of Hanai, Hananiah, the book of Samuel the seer, and so on, but no oral Torah, Talmud, or Midrash, which is why oral Torah is so disputed. Oral Torah is definitely disputed. Now, Orthodox Judaism gives you the lineage, gives you the, right, coming down the line of the people who brought this forward. And and the Baalei HaMesorah, the people of tradition. A lot of traditions and like certain ways of punctuating certain letters has been lost. In the same way, certain books were lost, certain things were lost, yes. But again, I say this as somebody who does not keep strict halacha. Having an oral Torah definitely makes sense. You have a written Torah which stays permanent, relatively speaking, or actually, objectively. And then you have the oral Torah, which is not written down, which you pass on, right, among the folks, the people, your traditions. And the fact that it had to be written down, I've said this many times, it had to be done, but it was a tragedy. And it was a terrible thing that the oral traditions had to be written down, because that effectively caused them to remain stuck in that period of time in a lot of ways. But we went into survival mode after the destruction of the Second Temple. We are only now, slowly, bit by bit, climbing out of that survival mode. Though in many ways we still are. I defend no court, said Sneezer. None is good but God, and none qualified to judge understandingly but God. Nevertheless, the Torah says you have humans who need to be judges. You need to have humans, because even if you say, yes, initially God should have been judge, human judges were appointed. And just like you say with Shmuel, right? Samuel tells them, Adonai is your king. Don't choose a king of flesh and blood and bone. Choose Adonai as your king. It's like, nobody's qualified to rule over you but God, but there are kings. And you know how I declare God judges, Sneezer says, good or needing more time. Yeah, you brought that up a while back. Well, not last week, was it? He continues, life is its own suffering and just beyond our eyes. Just like the real God is permanent and the fake change. Hey, the chef in the kitchen is here. Good to see you again. I think you've been here before. Which is why Jesus died, to pre-forgive us as God did. I'm curious, not being a Christian, I'm curious, it's such an odd concept to me, that idea of pre-forgiveness by a human being. Of course, you say he's not a human being, but he died. And this idea of having somebody, having that forgiveness needing to be brought into creation in that way. Why is that, do you think? Why is it that it wasn't, I'm not formulating it right even in my head, let alone now when it's almost 11:30. It is 11:30 p.m. James Bong says, so forgive me, I'll just go right past that. If you could clarify it for me a bit, that would be great, but my question is not, I didn't formulate it right. No one can be judged for the iniquities of their father and vice versa, James Bong says. Well, look, in the 13 attributes of mercy, it says that God definitely does put the iniquities of the fathers on the sons and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, right? To those who hate me. Now, on the other hand, it says in Scripture, in different places, that fathers sin, and and sons and daughters will not, take the rap, will not take the blame, will not take the, or not the rap, but they won't take the consequences. It won't be theirs. Sin belongs to the sinner, not to their progeny. But it's said that when the progeny, right, when the younglings, when the sons and daughters continue on going in that same path that caused the father to be judged, so, right, if the iniquities continue, then the sins of the father may continue on to the son and the daughter. Last words being, he forgives us, Nezer says. Oh wait, I want to say thank you for the vids lately. We enjoy them. Hey, you know what? I love doing them. I thank you. It's nice to do them, and I hope people enjoy them, even if it's just a little, tidbit. To prove that God understands. People hate God, said Sneezer, thinking he doesn't understand when he was born and died more painfully than any of us. Well, again, it's that idea of God incarnate that I just don't vibe with it. The book of Shenaya. I don't know that name. I probably know it in Hebrew. I don't know that name. Hang on a second. Let's see what it is in Hebrew. Is it Hananiah or Shenaniah? Hananiah was one of the dudes, in Babylon with Daniel. Wait, hang on a second. Where did I go? Where am I? Here I am. So I don't know if you mean Hananiah or Shenaniah. How can God understand if he's never been human, suffered as a human? Yes, I understand that. I understand that if you want to bring God to the people, make him human. I totally get that. But I'm saying, as a Hebrew man who has the Hebrew Torah, it simply does not go. It doesn't fly. No such thing. And now, as I've said before, for many years, I was more into the Hasidic teaching that says that the human soul, more specifically the Hebrew soul, but the human soul, right? Back in Eden, no humans, no Hebrews and Gentiles, just human beings. The soul is what they say, chelek eloka mima'al, a part of God above, or apart from God above. And for many years I thought that, until I started learning Pardes Rimonim by the Ramak. And ever since then, about a decade now, my brain has been more into that teaching of complete separation between creator and creation, as I've said many times. But that question of how can God understand if he's never been a human, suffered as a human, yes, it's a valid question. Now, the Psalms say, "Hayotzer yachad libam hamevin el kol ma'asehem." He who creates their hearts as one, or together, and understands all of their doings. So I'm of the opinion, no judgment, just really opinion, for whatever it's worth, that if I say God understands or God doesn't understand, it already isn't about God. For me, it's a revelation of understanding, or a revelation of harsh judgment, seemingly misunderstanding me and my woes and my position and my tragedy and why is this happening to me. All of those revelations are not God, but revelations of God, right? Judgment, understanding, mercy, kindness. The 10 Sfirot, the relationships between them, that eventually yield and birth into creation, reality, moment by moment, second by second. And so you say people hate God, you say people they want God to understand, they don't understand God. All of those things are difficult for me to wrap my head around because I have a different conception of God, in the sense that I don't know God, and all I know is how God reveals himself to me. So that language in and of itself is difficult for me to contend with. It's almost as if I understand what you mean, because I used to think that as well, in the sense of God being something that I could in some way understand, because it's a part of me, right? Chelek eloka mima'al, a part of God above. Robert Harrison says, but he didn't die for every other. He says, Yod He Vav He walked as a man too, but he didn't die for every other. So I misunderstand. I thought the Christians say that he did die for the others. Instead, he became Jesus, who dies as the sacrificial lamb, the last sacrificial lamb, Yod Vav He, already having committed many sins such as anger and jealousy. Okay? See, again, that's where I go, that's simply not how I think. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that that's not how I think. Not debating, brother, says Robert. Feel free to debate. I may take the bait, and I may not. What's your take in Hebrew scriptures when it says the Lord on earth rained fire from the Lord in heaven? Ma'ose. Oh, I'm sorry. That's already James Bond. Well, first I need the context and the actual verse. If you have the verse, I'd love to read it so I know which name is mentioned there in Hebrew. When I know the name, I'll know more about what it means. Also, earth and heaven. Does it say Shamayim va'aretz? Or does it say Rakia and Adama? Right? Those are different revelations. They signify different relationships. And if it's rain, fire, rain, which is water, fire, which is, the element of fire. Incidentally, rain is seen as it's called gvurot. Gvura is, the element of gvura is fire. So, well, anyway, each and every one of those words can mean different things depending on the Hebrew. So please find it for me, and I will give you I'll address it. מה עושה צפרדע כשהיא מרגישה קר? היא הולכת ללבוש. היא הולכת ללבוש. What does a frog do when it feels cold? She walks. היא הולכת ללבוש? I don't get it. It's a joke, but I don't get it. She goes to clothing? I don't know what that means. Sorry, man. I didn't get it. Robert asks, are you a fan of Netanyahu? He's a great speaker. And I do believe that he has done a lot for Israel. He's just a politician. He was once a great, combat soldier, fighter, Sayeret Matkal, all that. Nobody's taken that away from him. But he has done a lot for the security of Israel, but I don't know what he knows. Am I a fan? No, if I was a fan, I would vote for him, and I haven't voted since the expulsion from Gush Katif, as I mentioned yesterday. Goes to levush, which sounds like wearing clothes, but also means inside the shell. No. But even with turtle, it's shirion. So I don't know. A frog or a turtle? A tortoise. Do you mean a tortoise? So no, I'm not a fan of Netanyahu, but he is the Prime Minister of Israel. Now, as I've said, I haven't voted in almost 20 years, but the next time there's an election, I definitely will vote. And I'll have to see who's running against him. I just think that it's time for a change. Now, Netanyahu may think that he's the only one who can do it, and I believe that he may just think, some may say erroneously, that he literally is the only leader at this time who cares and can do something about the security of our nation. And I don't know enough. I don't know enough about politics here. I don't know enough about security here. I know that there is so much propaganda all the time, and as I always say, by the time it reaches my ears, my screen, my eyes, it's already with an agenda baked right in. Propaganda. Someone is trying to have me think something in particular. So it's very, very difficult to discern. So when elections come up, I'll have to do my best. I'll have to do my best and vote for whoever I think is best under the circumstances. So, look, a prime minister in charge of a country at war who can pull off the things that they're doing in Gaza, the things that they we're doing in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, all over the world, Mossad operatives. I don't think you reach that position by being a fool. And I don't think you reach that position by being a liar, like through and through. I think he's a career politician, and as such, and I also think he may be the only one. I also think that he thinks he may be the only one who can get the job done. He has that conviction about him when he speaks. Like, there's nobody else who can do it. It's me. It's only me. I'm the only one who can do it. Despite the fact that Israeli leaders from the left and the right, prime ministers and so on, have been saying things, the same things. Only victory will bring security and all that. But we're still mired in this conflict and this war for decades and decades. And many things that Netanyahu is now in charge of, he himself was born into. I don't know how he's like as a person. I know he's being prosecuted, a few different criminal cases against him, bribery and breaking trusts, or whatever the term is. And basically being, well, corruption. A lot of corruption. And I say to myself, well, I'm not a fan of corruption, but somebody needs to lead this country. And even though I didn't vote for him, he's currently the leader. I can protest against him, which I don't because I don't go to protests. But if I would go to protests and demonstrations, I'd probably be protesting against him. On the other hand, I know that he's got a much different view. Who am I to say what he ought and ought not do? I'm not on top of that hill. He is. I'm down in the battlefield or whatever. He's on the hill. He's got a much wider view. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan simply because I think he should have vacated his spot a long time ago, before the war, but definitely when the war broke out. And someone say, Jonathan, what are you, stupid? You don't change prime minister a second after a war broke out? But I don't know. Maybe someone else could have gotten it done better, cleaner, meaning only combatants and not innocent civilians. Not only, but you know what I mean. So many people all around the world are crying for so many innocent civilians using Hamas's numbers. I'm not saying no innocent civilians are dying there, obviously. They are, it's war, but don't get me started on Hamas's numbers and the way the people just eat it up. This propaganda, that propaganda, we're all enmeshed in that crap. So I'm not a fan of Netanyahu, but I think certain things that he did and that he was in charge of, let's say, and on his watch, were nothing short of brilliant. And I mean brilliant in the sense of not that it should be followed, because it was still violent acts against terrorists, and we should have world peace without terror or violence, Yah willing. But being as that's not the case, I think that he's doing the best he can with the tools that are available. And I can't even fathom the kind of life that he leads, for better or worse. But altogether, overall, I'm not a fan of Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, with all respect. I know his history. I read at least parts of his biography, though I didn't read his books. Like I said, I think he's a good speaker, and that's important. I think he knows how to communicate, and that's important. But if he doesn't stand behind the things that he's doing, then, I mean, just now, about an hour and a half ago, a new episode of Trigonometry dropped. They interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. And a few people in the comments were like, I'm from Israel, and what I don't like is the Prime Minister giving foreign interviews, but not willing to be interviewed by the local journalists here. I didn't watch the whole thing. In the beginning, Constantine and Francis, right, who host Trigonometry, they said that that they're going to push back. And from what I saw, I don't know if they pushed back enough. I think they could have done more. But I'm not there. I'm not them. I don't know. So he spoke very well in the parts of the interview that I saw. I saw most of it. In the part of the... and I've heard him speak in the UN. I've heard him speak before Congress. I've heard him speak here in Israel. He's a great speaker. What is it that he is actually doing? It's difficult for me to know. So many things are classified. So many things are... But it just seems that this person who can make the state of Israel do so many amazing things and say yes to the right things at the right time. And he seems to have a vision that I don't, being prime minister, obviously. But it's more than that. I don't have the military experience he does. I don't have the political and right, state experience he has, and foreign policy and locals. And there are so many things that I think are going wrong in this country. How much of it can be laid at his feet? How much of it can be laid at the feet of others? But I think he should have been gone a long time ago. In that sense, I'm not a fan. So let's just say that even if I was neither here nor there, in the last couple of years, I've become not a fan on the one hand, and a fan of things that he's done on the other hand. It's a difficult question, such a difficult question. Ay, ay, ay. Hey, Eli's here. Hello. Okay, let's see. Sounds like you meant turtle. Well, I mean, did he mean turtle or not? Genesis 19:24. What is that? Sdom ve'Amorah? Bereshit Yutet Kaf Dalet. Bereshit Yutet Kaf Dalet. Is that it? Yes. V'Adonai himtir al Sdom ve'Amorah gofrit va'esh me'et Adonai min hashamayim. You and Paula asked me this, and I already answered it in a live stream a few months ago. So I'll give you just the gist, because I don't want to. I'll give you the short version. Right. So what do we have? We have a couple of names here. Hang on a second. We have twice that it says Adonai, with the punctuation meaning the middle pillar, right, corresponding to the line of mercy, of beauty, of harmony. And so we have Himtira al Sdom ve'al Amorah, Gofrit va'esh min hashamayim. In other words, we have Adonai raining down the sulfur and fire from the heavens, min hashamayim. And it doesn't say earth. And it says himtir, matar is rain, meaning it rained sulfur and fire. Me'et Adonai min hashamayim. In other words, even when there was a revelation of judgment, gofrit va'esh, right, the sulfur and the fire that was raining on them, it was me'et Adonai, meaning that it brought things back to balance. It wasn't judgment for judgment's sake. It was a judgment which was supposed to bring things back to balance. That's how I see it. But I gave a more, what would be, expansive, I guess, addressing of this question. When you asked me that originally, tell you what, ask Paula, or you can look. You Instagrammed me, I believe. You DM'd me, and you asked that question. Facebook or Instagram, you DM'd me. See when you DM'd me what the date was. Around that time, there was a live stream, and I addressed it there more extensively, I think. איך דג קורא לחבר שלו? שלום, מה העניינים, שכן? See, that's, how does a fish call his friend? And the answer is, what's up? מה קורה, שוחה? I don't get it. What's up, swimming? But that's soche, not shoche. I'm not getting these, man. I don't know where you're getting them from, but I'm not getting them. It was supposed to be turtle, okay. So now we know. So Nizar says, my sympathies about how hard it is for you to discern, Achi. Yeah. Robert says, that looked like a beautiful place you guys went to with natural springs. Yes, it was. It was just outside of Yerushalayim. I took a half a day off of work, and we went there in the morning. I drove. That was a first. Never drove to any of those places. But when my first year with a license is finished, that's going to be December, I will be able to rent a car a lot cheaper. The only reason why I had the car is because my folks gave me the car while they were abroad. So I had it for a few weeks, but right now, if I wanted to rent a car, as somebody who hasn't had his license for a year, and I'm still a new driver, even though technically a new driver is 2 years legally, but after a year, they'll usually be more um, easier on the insurance. I'll be able to rent a car more. I should buy a car, but that's in the future. It was beautiful. I had fun. Sneezer says, every leader thinks and pretends they are the only ones who can get it done. Yes, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's how he's behaving. Whether or not that's the truth, I have no idea. I would hazard a guess that he's not the only one who can do it and do it well. But look, every time Bibi has stepped up to the plate, he's been elected. Meaning that even if a ton of people disagree with him, either they're not voting or there's a majority. I mean, obviously, there's a majority of people who are voting for him. I support annexation of Judea and Samaria, West Bank. I know not popular, but I do. It's difficult because you can make the argument that yes, you should annex Judea and Samaria and Gaza and everything, and kick everybody out. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? There are innocent people there after all. A small percentage they may be, they may not. From what I've gathered, it's a very small percentage that actually is technically just innocent. But you annex it, and then what? You give them Israeli citizenship? You give them some second-class citizenship? What do you do? What do you do? It's the thing is this. There were people living here in British Mandate of Palestine who were not Hebrews, tons of them. I don't want them to leave. I want to have a good neighborly peace agreement. I want, but that from what we've seen, it means that they can't be governed and led by religious extremists. They need to de-radicalize, so do we, but we at least have large swaths of the population that are not radical. A lot of the people. They say that the reason why there is no election in Judea and Samaria is because they would lose. Mahmoud, no, not Abbas, what's his name? Abu Mazen, he's still around. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm mistaking him with someone else. Anyway, the leader of the Palestinian Authority would lose that election because a great deal of Judea and Samaria support Hamas, and they would lose that election. A lot of Gaza still supports Hamas. I don't know if they're... Look, the Gazans, as are the people in Judea and Samaria, are between many rocks and many hard places, where they have religious extremists, incompetent, corrupt, horrible leaders on the one hand, and the IDF on the other hand. What are they to do? What the hell are they supposed to do? What the hell are we supposed to do? So let's say, right, you annex them. What do you do with the people? There are people there. If they don't want to be Israeli citizens, and they still want to live in what they consider to be their homes, and where they... So, you know, they did start the war, they didn't start the war, this war, that war, many wars, but the fact is that there were people here living. I mean, the relationship between the Hebrews and the Muslims, Arabs, or before the establishment of the State of Israel was not great. You can look it up, the different massacres and the different terrorist organizations, right? The groups, the Jewish terrorists, let's say, of Lehi and Etzel and Haganah. They were against the British, and they were defending the Jewish, right, the Hebrew population before the establishment of the State of Israel. And the moment that the State of Israel was established and Tzahal, IDF, was established, those organizations became illegal. If you annex it, then they should just annex it and get it done, and the world will have to suck it up. I don't know what to tell you. The world forgets. Everybody knows that. They sure as hell forgot very quickly about October 7th and what happened there. But the ideal would be, they want a state, let them have a state. Not a radical, extremist, religious state. Moderate. if there is such a thing. Some people say there is no moderate Islam. Some people say even if there is a moderate Islam, it's completely silent and dumbfounded and doesn't know what to do about it, about the radicalization, the fundamentalist Islam. But we can't live side by side with people who will stop at nothing to destroy us, who want to slaughter us and drive us into the sea. The experiment failed. We can't do it. You give them peace, you give them, right, you sign agreements, you give them land, you give them this, you give them that. Nothing is enough because it's not that they want a state. If they wanted a state, it could have been done at any point between 1948 and 1967. Almost 20 years of Gaza being under Egyptian rule and the West Bank of the Jordan being under Jordanian rule. They took zero initiative to establish a Palestinian state. There was no Palestine. There is no Palestine. The Palestinian people as a people and as an identity, that was forged in the 1960s as a way to fight the Jews, not as a way to actually establish anything. But let's say, okay, cool, give them a state. It can't be run like that. And they may not get Jerusalem as their capital. I know that was it Ehud Barak or Ehud Olmert over 20 years ago, I think, that made an offer where the capital of the Palestinian state that was on the table would be East Jerusalem. They said no, because it's not about them getting a state. It's about them annihilating the Hebrew people in the land of Israel. And it's not even a Zionist thing, though they'd love to paint it as such. It burns the ass of Islam at large that the Hebrew people are here in the land of our fathers and mothers. It burns their ass. It kind of tells them, subtly, not so subtly, the chosen people who you agree were chosen for whatever it is that they were chosen for are still here. Right here. Not going anywhere. That burns their ass. It's a pain in that we are a thorn in many a side, many a global side. And we deserve it, we don't deserve it, some people are just, I want to live in peace with our neighbors. I don't want to kick them out, annihilate them all. That's not what Israel wants. It's not what Israel wants. And I'm making a very broad generalization, of course. But Robert, I understand that you support the annexation, and I get it. It's unpopular, you say. It's true, very unpopular. So Nieser says, every enemy is made out to be the psychopath with no reasons. Now, I mean, if you face me with it, I get the reasons, I understand the reasons, and I know why they indoctrinate their kids to hate Jews, murder Jews, in the name of Allah. I get it. I do. If you consider somebody to be the great devil, a force of evil and wickedness that needs to be eradicated, let's say Amalek, we are commanded to eradicate the very memory of Amalek under the heavens. In the very same way, we don't have our Amalek now. The people of Amalek are no more. They remain as a concept, an idea. People get named Amalek, but they are not actually genetically, nationally Amalek. You know what I'm saying? Like in the root nations, the 70 root nations, they may not be Amalek. But for Islam, they know, right? They have the Quran, the final revelation of God, they say. The Hebrew people are mentioned there, right? Am HaSefer, Al-Kitab, right? The book, the people of the book, are mentioned there many times. And at times, the land of Israel being for the people of Israel is also mentioned there. I don't know chronologically when that appears in the life of Muhammad as in the narrative, but because I know in Quran they say things that appear later in Muhammad's life supersede or make null and void things that were said earlier in Muhammad's life. So I don't think that every enemy is made out to be a psychopath for no reason. Sometimes they are a psychopath with psychopathic and religious extremist reasons. And it could very well be that the essence of their argument is just and true. I had relatives here before 1948. As far as I'm concerned, you did not exist before 1948, State of Israel. And so, we simply want to go back home. Like I said, if you confront them with, but you started a war and you lost, it's like, okay, forget all that. Let's put that aside. I understand their grievance. They, according to them, had a Nakba, a real Holocaust. And ever since the establishment of the State of Israel, it's been a continuous Holocaust. Only now we do it bit by bit in order to not arouse suspicion in the world and to continue our Zionist agenda. I get their reasons. Whether they're religious, ideological, I don't get it. I get their reasons. I can disagree, but I get why they do what they do. And I think that they are paying a price for it, and I think that eventually, there will have to be a decisive Israeli victory. And unfortunately, since Hamas will not release the hostages and put down its arms, right, and stop the bloodshed, it may come to pass that a decisive Israeli victory, which is undeniable and indisputable, will have to come probably at the cost, I hope not, of many innocent lives, and I really hope that's not the case. Israel pulled out of Gaza in 2005 in the summer, 20 years ago. Hamas and the terrorists immediately took over. There was elections shortly afterwards. Hamas was elected. They went after the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and all the other people who were against them, killed a bunch of them, subjugated to some degree the rest of them, and the Gazans. And for the last 20 years, they've been indoctrinating even more so the children. If they had only not done that, we would have now a generation of young Gazans who don't hate Jews or the State of Israel, and who are ready to have a real agreement with a real partner that can yield real peace. And it doesn't have to be a warm, fuzzy feeling peace. It can be this cold, distant peace of subtle cooperation, right? Like we have with Egypt, like we have with Jordan. It's like the Arab world, the Muslim world is starting to come around. The Abraham Accords are a great example of this. And I pray, please Adonai, that more nations join the Abraham Accords. We can together achieve what we haven't been able to achieve separately and in war. We can really make this desert bloom. In the words of, oh, so many, can't we all just get along? Like, no, religious extremism and, says, nope, you can't. Because as long as the Jews exist, that says something about you, Muslims. They need to be Muslim. Islam needs to rule the world. How can you have the Hebrew people who rejected Islam still around and in their land? Are you frickin' kidding me? What is this insult? What are they? What is this? What is this crap? Right. Let's continue. I hope Bibi gets the hostages back. This is so long, and I'm sure he is doing his best. May they return even right now, at this very moment, as I speak these words. Through a miracle, through military intervention, through whatever it is, man. Almost 2 years. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The truth, says Sneezer, is of course, the only way is to lead by example. To lead by example. Yeah, that would be the truth, all right. Elah says conflicts are always about resources, even when they say it's about religion or something else. At the root, it's who gets what. I don't know enough about warfare, and certainly not modern warfare, in order to say whether I agree or not. But if you say they're always about resources, what resources does Israel have? Where is the beef? Where is the conflict here? We have a huge desert. I mean, how is it about resources? I don't get it. Robert says, could you elaborate, Ella? Robert says there's a Muslim Saudi who went viral recently, saying Saudi children of Ishmael and Israel children of Isaac, cousins, are the only ones who have claimed their land, no one else, no lie. Well, the sons of Ishmael are considered our cousins because we are the children of Jacob. So Israel and Saudi are cousins, yes. The only ones who have claim to their land and no one else. Interesting. So what made him go viral? I don't understand. I mean, Saudi Arabia is pretty much ready to join the Accords, join the Abraham Accords. Ella, said Sneezer, no, they are about misunderstanding presumed to be fact. One such misunderstanding is that human life has monetary value. Right, resources, land, money, etc., says Elan. No, I disagree when it comes to religious war. Certainly when it comes to jihad, in the sense that it's a religious holy war. I know people say that jihad has many interpretations. The jihad that I've experienced here in Israel is definitely of the holy war variety, of the let's blow up buses and and kill innocent people because it will get me 72 virgins in heaven and I'll be close to Allah in paradise kind of variety. Definitely not about resources. I think Hamas has proven, and other corrupt Palestinian leadership, that they can take money very, very well, spend it on themselves, and not give a two craps about their civilians. It takes hate to kill, said Sneezer. I disagree about that as well. There were 2 times in my life where I had a finger on the trigger, and there was no hate in my heart. There was self-defense. That's what there was. So, it takes hate to murder, perhaps. I don't think it takes hate to kill. To kill in what capacity? In what capacity? I don't think it takes hate to kill. Could you elaborate? Maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Yeah, James Bond agrees with me. It doesn't take hate. Sanitas says to Robert, usually not always, some is defensive. Wait, I'm sorry, what was he talking about? Robert says... He was talking about the land. Is that what you're referring to? I'm not sure. Oh, wait, the chat jumped. Hang on, I need to... so Smokeslot is here. I saw his name quickly here. Yeah, it's always about resources. Sir Smokesalot says, hello, Sneezer, any conversation done today? James Bong says, kill or be killed. Wait, my tea? Almost done. Kill or be killed. So defending against someone trying to kill you isn't hateful. Again, I gotta stretch. Oh. Is it hateful? It's just a response to it. Yes, something like that. Sir Smokeslot says, seeds transform if given enough water and light. A seed you planted. Sneezer, I get it. Okay, water and light. James Bong says, so I don't agree that it takes hate to kill. More or less, it could take the will to live, too. Yeah, well put, well said. James Bong says, Sneezer replies, without hate there is nothing to kill. Okay. So you're saying that if there was no hate, we wouldn't even be put in the position where that would come to pass, right? Where that would be manifested. We wouldn't even have the opportunity to kill because there would be no hate, thus no reason to kill. Okay. No hate means no reason, no reasons mean no killing. But do you agree that accidental killing may still go on? I'm still learning Hebrew. Good for you, man. I thought that maybe you were just transliterating using some app. If it's you, then doing it, then great, good for you. That's great Hebrew. Keep it going. I'm also still learning Hebrew, right? Always more to learn. In a perfect world that we don't live in. He says, Sneezer said to Sir Smokesalot, we can only plant and tend, God blooms. Yes? Le'ovda ve'leshomra, right? Like Adam was supposed to do in the garden. To tend and keep it. Amen, my friend Sneezer, amen, says Sir Robert. Says Sir Smokesalot. And Robert says, Hebrew Nazarite, I'm getting tired of people asking me about driving. Yeah, you said that yesterday. I hear you. I hear you. I hope that you were able to get the money together, get your license back. A small percentage, HN, they can live under an Israeli flag. But you know what? Even so, even if they could live under an Israeli flag, if there are innocent people in Gaza who are so gung-ho about staying where they are for their reasons, okay, they can't be governed by a religious extremist corrupt government that wants to destroy Israel. That will no longer be the case. It will never be the case again, I hope. Or, says James Bond, go to where there isn't an Israeli flag. Yes, that's right. Obviously, they have the chance to leave, or I mean, they ought to. The innocent ones who don't want to leave, I understand it. I get it. I would not want to annex them. So Nizar says you provide an example that people want to join. So you're talking about the you plant and tend and God blooms. You provide an example that people want to join. Robert says, I think that's what you were referring to, Sneezer. If not, then forgive me. Robert said, I heard there's a real thing that being talked about sending them to South Sudan. Sending who to South Sudan? The people of the West Bank? The people of Yehuda v'Shomron, of Judea and Samaria? Look, a transfer of population has been done. This wouldn't be the first time that population has been transferred. We did it we did it when we signed with evacuated so many people. When we signed the peace agreement with Egypt, and when we transferred the people of Gush Katif and ripped them out of their homes forcibly. Oh man, so screwed up. This place is so messed up. And to the degree that it's so messed up, there's also such potential for divine revelation and wonder and goodness and kindness and righteousness. Oy. James Bong says, if they are so willing to want to live there in peace, that shouldn't be a problem. I agree, it shouldn't be a problem. Get rid of the extreme religious folk who want to destroy Israel, and we can have a partner to talk with. The problems were that even before Oslo and after the Oslo Accords, definitely, there was this pretense, this conception, as if we actually had a partner in the Palestinian leadership. But all they did was put on a great mask of diplomacy, of desiring peace, and it went to hell so very quickly, and it continues to go into deeper and deeper depths of hell. And I would want there to be peace, if only, so no innocent civilians die. And the militaries can be, right, the weapons can be put away and the militaries can be disbanded. God willing, we will have peace. World peace. There's a large enough Jews population that hates Arabs. Listen, I don't know how much you think is large enough in the population, but we are, 7 million Jews with 2 million Arabs. That's like a fifth of the country, right? We're 10 million altogether, or almost 10? I think we're 10 million now. 2 million, if I'm not mistaken, were so Israeli Arabs. And like I said, Israeli Arabs, I don't envy them. They also are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They have the Palestinian identity, let's say, and cause, but then they have the Israeli flag and the Teudat Zehut, right? And their Israeli ID. What are they loyal to? What master do they serve? The innocent people who just want to live here in peace, they definitely have done so much, and I've mentioned this before. When the war broke out now on the 7th, and tons of people went to the reserves, the infrastructure and the hospitals and all of the places where wounded people were showing up all the time, and so many places, there's a strong presence of Israeli Arabs there. The Israeli Arabs could have rioted, they could have run amok in the streets and joined their terrorist brothers and sisters when that invasion happened. They didn't. They have been really, I suppose, walking on eggshells, though I don't know this for a fact. But like I said, I don't envy them. They have this identity crisis, ongoing identity crisis. But to their credit, and I'm making, again, a broad generalization with Israeli Arabs, to their credit, they haven't been instigating wars on the inside. They have been going about their business, doing what they can for the country that they're living in. They may resent Israel, they may not want Israel to be here, they may dream of a day when Israel will be overthrown. But, for now, they aren't rioting, as far as I know, not en masse. And they're not calling for the destruction of Israel en masse. They're making a lot of places work. They're keeping the right Israeli society going to the degree that there are people in the Israeli what's it called, labor force, right, and places of and businesses and places of a lot. There is a large population that hates Arabs. Maybe not. Hate is a strong word, but 2 million Arabs, you're going to hate them all, really? Each and every one of them. Each and every one of them. Arabs all over the world, in Arabia, outside of Arabia, Arabized countries. You're going to hate every single one of them? Seriously? Really? Good luck with that. That's a lot of hate. It doesn't matter, says James Bong. They don't have a say in what happens to that land once they lose it. Yes, that ought to be the way it is. But I'm willing to say, you know what? There were people there before. If we can make it work and we don't have to annex the Gaza Strip, then let's not annex the Gaza Strip. If that's the only path to victory and security, that might need to happen. And they brought it on themselves. Robert says, and I think I'll be done now. It's been an hour and 17 minutes. I've got 14 people watching and 7 likes, and I love it so much. So I'll take a quick aside before this last question for now. I'll continue the chat another time, another live, another day, God willing. But I want to say thank you. Thank you. Those watching now, those watching later. The comments and the chats and the views and the subs, you people in the DMs. I have had someone email me recently. Interestingly enough, he put the entire message in the subject line. Ah! I thought that was really interesting. I appreciate your time, your kind attention. I don't take it for granted. It's wonderful that I can just sit down here with a cup of tea, hit go live, and we have a conversation, we have a dialogue, and it doesn't all go to hell and, with accusations and slander and calling each other names, and occasionally it does escalate to that, but normally it's just a very pleasant back and forth. I teach you, you teach me, and we have a dialogue, and I cherish it. And I think it's lovely. I think it's wonderful. Whether I have 1 person watching or, 14 or 12, whether I have 1 like or 7 likes. It's lovely to make this happen. You make it happen. It's lovely to be a part of it. I hope we can continue to do it another time. But right now, let's go to this question from Robert Harrison, and then I think I will call it a day. Robert asks or states, I read this week in Tanakh about first exile to Babylon, that the only Jewish people that was left in Israel were the poorest of the poor, right? Kormim v'yogvim, yes. To be vine dresser and husbandman. Okay, Kormim v'yogvim, that's what it means. Even in exile, still some Hebrews in Israel. Yes, those are the Hebrews that Jeremiah, who stayed put, he told them, for the love of everything, for the love of sweet, merciful crap, don't go to Egypt. And of course, they go to Egypt. And they call on him there. What is it that God wants us to do? He doesn't want you in Egypt. No, we'll stay in Egypt. And Gedaliah ben Achikam, Gedaliah, son of Achikam, son of Shaphan, is placed by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, to be the ruler here. Gedaliah, the son of Achikam, was of the lineage of David. Not the lineage of David. Gedaliah ben Achikam was of an esteemed lineage, let's say, and he was put here to rule over the poorest of the poor that remained behind. right? The people who were ill, the people who were poor, the elderly, and what have yous, the stragglers, okay, and the people who couldn't make the voyage to Babylon. He was put there in charge of the people of Judah and Judea. But then he was murdered on the Feast of Trumpets, on Rosh Hashanah, by Yishmael ben Netanyah, who was of the lineage of David, of the kings of Judah. The ruler of Judea, appointed by Babylon, he tells them, the ruler Gedaliah, he tells them, don't fear. It's over. Whoever is exiled, but we are still here. Okay? Do the bidding of the king of Babylon, of Melech Kasdim, right? Do the bidding of Nebuchadnezzar, and you will be rewarded. It will be good here. We can make it good, even though we've been through a terrible ordeal. Even though so many brothers and sisters have been slaughtered and the rest exiled, and we, the few of the few, the poorest of the poor, remain here behind in Judea. Don't fear the king of Babylon. Go with him, do what he says, remain here, and things will be okay. And then, when Gedaliah was murdered, they left. They went to Egypt. It was, and it remains, the reason why the day after the Feast of Trumpets, the day after Rosh Hashanah, there is a fast called the Fast of Gedaliah. And it's because after Gedaliah was murdered, the first political assassination, I think, in the Bible, after he was murdered, I mean, it's not the first political assassination. I mean, other people were assassinated, of course. Yoav ben Tzuya, right, Asael, but it's because it's a little different. It's a certain type of assassination that is considered to be the first one of its kind, I think, in the Bible, of Gedaliah, the murder of Gedaliah, son of Achikam. There was a spark. There was a small pilot light, a tiny little flame. And the murder of Gedaliah, son of Achikam, put out that flame and extinguished it, which is why we fast on that day. But not forever and not always. Those days will become days of joy and celebration and dance and fun. Okay, on that happy note of days of mourning and grief and woe and tragedy and destruction, turning to days of wonder and, right, Odcha Adonai ki anaftabi, that will be sung in the land of Judah. Is it Jeremiah? I think it's Jeremiah. On that day, it will be sung in the land of Judah. I thank you, Lord, for you chastised me. Like a father chastises his son because he wants him to be better, and he's on the side of what's best for him. The divine revelation is on our side, and hopefully, and when I say our side, I mean just human beings at large. And I hope and I pray that the war will end, hostages return, Hamas disbanded, terrorism, bloodshed, violence, warfare itself taken away. Even right now, as I speak these words, have it be taken away. And may a great, deep, long, everlasting peace descend on the earth and its earthlings, with a temple, without a temple, and bringing it down to the level of the individual. I hope that we are able to contend with our own battles, our own struggles, the places where we are hostage to our own vices, habits, whatever the case may be. I hope that we are able to understand, give pause, make peace with ourselves and those around us. There is no greater vessel to hold blessing than peace, say our sages. There were other things I wanted to talk about tonight, other comments to continue this chat, to continue the chat from Monday night, which I still haven't finished, I think, or maybe I did. Either way, I am tired, and it's almost 12:30. I've been on for almost an hour and a half, and it has been so lovely. I thank you. Truly, I do. Hopefully, I will see you next time on another live stream here from Jerusalem. May I merit and be privileged enough to sit in front of this camera again and talk to you and learn from you, converse with you. and shoot the breeze with you. Until then, good night from Jerusalem. God bless. Be blessed and be a blessing to others.